safe havens for babies. Welcome to Newsmakers. I'm Lisa Oligas. Safe haven laws exist in many states and are credited with saving thousands of lives. The goal is to prevent abandonment and provide a safe alternative for parents struggling to care for their young children. Joplin and Carthage fire officials added safe haven baby boxes at local stations and introduced them to the public with a blessing day. Here's a look.
I want to welcome everybody to the blessing ceremony of our Safe Haven baby box.
What looks like a simple sign on the wall is actually a door that, when opened, becomes a safe place for a parent in crisis to surrender their child.
What is being done is something that Jesus will bless.
This baby box in Joplin is the 311th in the nation and the 3rd for Missouri. It's located at station number 7 in Joplin. Another was blessed in Carthage on the same day. Mariah Betts, the assistant project coordinator for Safe Haven Baby Boxes, shared the origin of the group's mission.
Monica Kelsey started Safe Haven Baby Boxes after learning she was abandoned as an infant and after seeing a baby box in operation at a church in Cape Town, South Africa. She has made it her personal mission to educate others on the Safe Haven law and to do whatever it takes to save the lives of innocent babies from being abandoned.
Instead, a parent can place the baby inside the temperature-controlled box where once opened, a house alarm is triggered.
Joplin Carthage Fire Station 2 has a baby box alarm.
There are no cameras pointing outside, giving the parent in crisis a way to safely surrender their child without shame or judgment.
This is very important to have in communities because this offers moms 100% anonymity.
Parents have 30 days after the surrender to come forward. After 30 days, the child can be adopted. Firefighters feel comfortable with the responsibility.
I'm a dad of 4, so kids are my thing, it's not a big deal for me. I think, as long as we just kind of follow the guidelines that are already set out for us.
In this edition of Newsmakers, we learn more about the baby boxes and the local efforts to get them, as well as learn about a Joplin history mystery of the baby in the bushes. But we begin our conversation with Joplin Fire Chief Gerald Ezell, fundraiser CB Eastman, and Carolyn Sprague with Life Choices. Welcome, everyone.
Thank you for having us.
Well, thank you for being here. This is the first set of baby boxes for Joplin, but it became the 6th in Missouri. Now, nationwide, there are 310 Safe Haven baby box locations. Chief, the baby box is located at a new station, Station 7. Why pick that location?
Okay, well, first and foremost, Station 7 is still in the construction phase, so it made it really simple for the installation of that. But also that location sits on the outskirts of the city of Joplin. If a parent has to make that, it's unfathomable for me to ever come to that decision that I'm going to give up my child. That's the best avenue I have to care for it. The last thing they want to do is do that in a populated area where they may run into somebody. So that station location is perfect for that. It's on the outskirts of town. When they place the baby in there, they've got about a minute before anybody's going to be notified inside that the baby's inside. So that gives the parent a chance to get to their car and leave.
All right. So please review the process of what happens when a child is placed in the box. How does that work? An alarm is triggered?
So they place the baby inside the box. About 50 seconds later, a local alert inside the station sounds, alerting the occupants in there that there is a baby placed in the box. About 25 seconds later, it triggers an alarm that goes straight to our dispatch center so that they can notify the ambulance and the police department to respond out there as well. So once that happens, of course, our guys or gals are going to be making sure that the baby's good and healthy, make sure it's fed. If it needs a diaper change, they take care of that kind of thing too. And then it's transported to the hospital where from there DFS gets involved.
It takes funds to purchase and install the baby boxes. CB Eastman was involved in that effort. Tell us, how many donors did it take? Was it a difficult thing to raise this, about $12,000?
Yes, not really. I mean, once they understood the purpose and we educated on what the box would do to help save lives, I found that it was very, very good for people to give us the money that we needed. We really didn't have that much difficulty, and I was surprised. But a lot of my friends and the community had worked at St. John's and Mercy, and they understood the need to have such a baby box in Joplin.
So donors included both individuals and businesses?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. In fact, we had to be careful how we put the length of the individuals and the businesses on our plaque by the baby box, because, you know, we had both. So very proud that they did that for our community.
So are you still seeking more donations? Is there sort of ongoing cost and even maintenance in a sense?
So we do have a maintenance cost every year. I believe it's $400. But we also have advertising money, letting people know that the box is there. There's even been a lot of interest showed from people in the community wanting us to put a second box in. So we're kind of looking at Station 6, it's way out on the southwest corner of the city, and we're looking at a potential of that in the future.
Excellent. Well, Life Choices was a primary donor to both baby boxes in Joplin and Carthage. Carolyn Schrag is here to talk about that. Why was your organization so dedicated to this effort and wanting to have, one here in Joplin and in Carthage?
I think a lot of people think that there's only a couple options if you have a mistimed or an unplanned pregnancy, but this is just a fourth option, and it really is an option that is filled with compassion. And I love the tag that the Safe Haven box has, that no blame, no shame, no name. And it does give a very confidential way. We can't judge what someone else is going through. Maybe they started that pregnancy and circumstances were great, but then as things moved along, a betrayal of a partner or circumstances with a job, or maybe that baby's born and they realize, I am not equipped. And so I love the Missouri Safe Haven laws that allow for a baby to be placed even up to 45 days old. And that Safe Haven law would allow a baby to be received by our clinic. But what do you do if it's midnight? What do you do if it's on a weekend? And that's where the fire station, they never shut down. And so we wanted to get behind this really safe option for our communities, where who wouldn't want their little one to be received into the most capable, loving arms of those that are there to serve and protect, and that's the fire people, the fire persons that are in our community that really respond and take care of us.
And you hope to inform the public about this service. You've got some cards you're going to put in. Who do you want to target? Who do you think needs to know? Who do you hope to reach and let them know about the baby boxes?
Well, really the entire community. So for us, we are in 14 school districts. And so we want those kids to know from the get-go. Maybe they know someone, maybe it's an unplanned teen pregnancy and they're trying to keep it very quiet. Or maybe it is those college students that they have a scholarship. They don't think that abortion is an option they're comfortable with, but they don't know what they're going to do. And so we just want to get the message out. So for us, we do about 150 positive pregnancy tests in our clinics on our mobile unit. We're going to make sure that there is information in every single positive pregnancy test to let them know that this is a fourth option in our community in 2 different places, and just want to blitz our community with the good information that this is an option in our community.
I mean, you mentioned some might be thinking of abortion, but they might not realize they do have another choice, or they might be thinking, oh, can I handle this on my own?
Yeah.
Is that often a discussion you have with clients?
We are going to do whatever we can to make sure that people are informed. And now that we have these Safe Haven boxes in our community, we get to tell them about this fourth option that many people have never heard of or never even considered. But when we're able to explain, this is what it looks like. We were at the blessing in Carthage, and we had our team members that were at the blessing in Joplin. We've seen, and it's just so exciting to know that it is so well protected in that space, and that, like Chief said, within a minute, that baby is with another human that is well trained to receive that child.
Let's discuss the anonymity aspect of the baby boxes. How vital is that element to the purpose of this baby box? Any of you can comment, but Carolyn?
Well, I think for us, we know that every child is a wanted child by someone, but it may not be the right timing for that particular individual, but there can be a lot of stigma that is attached to someone that is seen as abandoning the child. And really, that choice that that parent is making, that's probably the most compassionate choice that they could make in that moment. because they realize they're not equipped, or they realize that they don't have everything that they want to give that child the best option. So confidentiality, that anonymity is so important. And this is a way that allows that to happen in our community.
And I'd like to add, Lisa, that one of the things that I appreciated being a nurse in the ER, when somebody would come in and do that with a baby, a lot of people around, lots of lights, all that type of thing. At 3 o'clock in the morning at our Safe Haven baby box, there's a crisis number. So there's a light over the box, no one's going to see you, but if I need to call somebody that's supervised by a clinical psychologist and talk to them out of that crisis moment, is it a good decision or bad? I think that's a huge benefit for those individuals.
So Chief, have we had babies left at the fire station before?
We have before, the safe, that we've had parents drop off children before at the fire stations, but this is a whole new concept where they can do it anonymously here. Kind of like what CB was talking about, when a parent makes that decision and opens that box and places the baby in there, there's also a packet inside that the parent can take that has those crisis numbers, and just basically some counseling information inside there, because like I said before, I can't fathom having to make that decision. But, the one time I did have one placed with us in Maumelle, Arkansas, when we did the press conference, I asked for prayers for the mom too, because as a dad, I can't even imagine being at a point in my life to where I felt like the best option for me was to give up my child. I know how difficult that had to be.
Why is a fire station really a good place for this to happen? She's mentioned 24/7, but you guys have probably even delivered a few babies.
Yeah, that does happen. But also, I can tell you, whenever we received the baby down in Arkansas, maybe 15 seconds after I landed that night, when the guys called me and said, "Hey, we have a baby in the box," I looked around the room and I'm like, this makes perfect sense. 3 out of the 4 gentlemen that are standing here right now are dads that have small children. So, it makes perfect sense for the firefighters. Not only are we all about the community, but we're also parents ourselves. So it made perfect sense.
And EMT trained.
Yeah,
That's true.
Absolutely.
Yes. So there is a national hotline. You mentioned it. It is 1-866-99-BABY-1. How often has that been utilized? Do we know? Is it called regularly? Is it something that is engaged?
I do not know. That's something you'd have to, Monica Kelsey, the founder of Safe Haven Baby Box, would have more information on something like that.
But it's nice to know that they can call that, and then that actually can be something to comfort those who are actually the adults in the situation.
Absolutely.
I think we have a quote that we often use that just says, "No one should judge me by the chapter you walked in on." And when we're looking at this particular chapter in a young woman or in her partner's life where they have to make that split decision, and from our work even with human trafficking and knowing that sometimes those women are on the run, and what do they do in that moment to protect their child? Well, what better place than to be able to have a safe place like the one on the very near to the interstate, if they're needing to go and place this child, that is going to forever be taken care of, because we know that how that child is then taken is going to go into a safe place because someone wants that child.
Yeah. Well, thank you all for all this great information. Appreciate your efforts.
Thank you for having
Appreciate you having us.
When we come back, we'll talk with those involved in the baby box in Carthage. As we go to break, here's information about that national hotline. The Carthage, Missouri baby box was dedicated the same day as Joplin's in Carthage. Joining us now to discuss that installment is the Fire Marshal, Eli Maples. Welcome. Since 2017, 55 infants have been safely and legally surrendered in a baby box. Why is this an important addition to your fire station in Carthage?
I think it's important in the fact that it just gives another option for people that maybe can't take care of the baby or are uncertain about their future and their baby's future, or just don't have the needs or the resources to take care of the baby. It gives them an anonymous option And I think the anonymity is really important, so people can feel safe in doing so.
So tell us about your baby box. It is located at one of the Main Street station. Is it kind of out of the way? Is it easier to do this very discreetly by being at that location?
Yes, so Station 2 is kind of out of the public line of sight. It's kind of off of the main path. So it is a good location because of the ability to have anonymous surrenders. It's just not in the public light, so it made the perfect location.
Have you had children dropped off at the fire department in Carthage?
To my knowledge, we've never had anybody surrender a baby at the Carthage Fire Department, and eventually, I assume we will, and we'll be ready for that.
What are the concerns of parents? Is it a problem that we have in our society where we have a lot of poverty? What would be issues in Carthage that you think this may be a need for folks?
It's hard to say. Obviously, teen pregnancy, I believe, is still on the rise. And we have a rather rural area, and if you go off the CDC's data, the rural areas in Missouri seem to have higher teen pregnancy rates than, say, the cities. But this is obviously for all ages, for teens or any age of somebody who might need to surrender their child.
Yeah, it could be somebody with multiple children and
make that choice to actually have to do so.
Yeah.
Like Chief Azell said, I can't even imagine having to make that choice. So.
Yeah. So let's talk about how the box works, because it's not just an empty box. It does have sort of heating and cooling. How does it maintain being a safe space for the child?
So the box is inserted, installed, built into an exterior wall that is accessed directly from an interior wall. It is climate controlled. It has alarms on it. It is accessed through an exterior door. Once the baby is placed inside the box in the bassinet and the door is closed, that door will lock. And then that starts the timer for a minute. And after a minute, the alarm goes off in the station and also sends an alarm to dispatch out the fact that there's something in the baby box.
Does a mother or a parent have an opportunity if they change their mind? How many days can they change their mind or come back?
Okay, so I can't answer how many days, but once they place the baby in or something in the box and they close the door, that door locks. So they can come around and knock on the door, but we are not allowed to give that baby directly back to them. One, we don't know for a fact that that's the person who dropped the baby because there's no cameras or anything outside. We don't know why they would be changing their mind, so that's not for us to decide. So we cannot let them in. We cannot give the baby back to them. We'll have to go through the normal process and the normal steps, and then they can follow up later with.
I mean, they would then lose their anonymity,
Right,
but they would come forward. I believe the law might say that they have at least 30 days where they could come to
It may
mind.
say so.
So once the child then comes in, they get basically into the system and they would be into the foster care system?
That I can't answer either. I can tell you that when a baby comes in, if a baby does get surrendered and is put in the box, we will respond. The personnel in the station will respond. If we're out of the station, EMS is also dispatched. And if we are all otherwise obligated on a call, then Carthage Police Department responds and takes care of that baby. Then we transport it to the local hospital.
Yeah. Life Choices was a sponsor of your baby box as well. Tell us about some of the other sponsors. I mean, was it a community supported item?
It was. I wasn't part of the fundraising. There was two nice ladies from Carthage, by the name of Dina and Vicky. They are the ones who did all the fundraising, did all the legwork, really worked hard to make it happen. And it's much appreciated. I know that they had many donors in the Carthage area. I believe they said they had a total of 18 private donors, businesses, other things like that. I don't want to name any because I don't want to leave anybody out, but there was generous donations, including Life Choices.
Yeah. Why are firefighters prepared for this kind of responsibility?
Well, as our daily life kind of goes, what we do is emergency response. We respond to fires, medical calls, car crashes, things like that. So it's kind of ingrained in us to be able to think on our toes and be able to handle situations like this. So it kind of makes sense to be the perfect spot to be able to leave a baby at a fire department 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. and it's kind of what we do. So
Yeah. How do you feel like this will be good for your community?
it gives the opportunity for somebody to surrender a baby in Carthage. Anonymously. Obviously, somebody could surrender a baby at a police department or fire department under the Safe Haven law in Missouri. But adding that anonymity may be more helpful or more doable for somebody in crisis that doesn't want to know or feels bad or has guilt or all those things that could go along with having to give up your child. So,
Well, glad the community has supported this. Do you think you would get another one in the future? Is there a push for that in Carthage?
there's not. Obviously, if we started having a lot of surrenders or we had some request for it or anything like that, we would look at it. But right now, we have the one, and I assume eventually we'll probably have a baby surrendered. And I don't look forward to that day, but if and when it comes, we'll be ready and take care of it.
All right. Thank you, Fire Marshal Eli Maples. Appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
The concept of baby boxes is not entirely new, and Joplin has a mystery in its history of a baby in the bushes. That story after the break. Fire stations and police departments have been a dropping point for babies in baskets, abandoned in the past by parents. The Safe Haven baby boxes are better options today, borrowed from history. In fact, in Joplin, that history includes the mystery of a baby in the bushes. We take a look back to 1945 with Mary Ann Phillips of Historic Murfreesburg Preservation. Mary Ann, thank you for being here. Welcome.
Oh, I love coming on your show.
So let's tell the story of the baby in the bushes. Who discovered this child? It was July 11th, 1945 at 219 South Sargent. We have some old photos we're going to show when you talk about this, but so who discovered this child? Whose home was that?
There were 3 women at the house at the time. The owner of the house, Jenny Potleiser, her husband had died like a year and a half before. So she was there, and then her sister and Jenny's nurse, which I thought was very interesting that there'd be a nurse. I mean, how often do you have a nurse at your home at 10 o'clock at night?
Right.
So they all heard the baby crying.
And they went out
and they went out,
where
searched,
was it?
searched. It was in the bushes. It literally was in the bushes. You'd think it'd be on a doorstep, you hear those stories, but no, it was in the bushes.
So was it in a basket? I mean, was it well tended? Did it seem cared for, like someone intentionally wanted them to find it?
Yes, because it was well cared for, it was very healthy, but it also had all the baby supplies with it, the baby powder and clean clothes, it was in very good condition, and it had its supplies with it.
So as we've heard, it was one of those, sort of a loving surrender. This person wanted that child to go into good hands. The story made headlines, but the identity of the biological mother was never revealed, was it?
It never was, to this day. In fact, those records, even though here we are, 2025, those records will always be sealed with Missouri. That's just how the law is. And we did try to find out, but we never did. And I interviewed a lot of people who knew the Potleisers, and some of them had never even heard the story. They didn't even know it happened.
So how do stories like this inspire safe haven laws?
Well, of course, back in the day, you got to remember, World War II, there's a lot of soldiers coming and going through Joplin, or anywhere. The mother may not have even been from Joplin. We don't know. They know it was conceived somewhere to where they gave the baby a June 1st birthday. So you can kind of go back, and so it's right between the end of World War II in Europe and then the end in Japan. They're kind of right in between there. So we don't know where the parents really are from even, but the baby landed in Joplin.
So there was some speculation. What were some of how did people react first when this baby happened? Were a lot of people like, oh, we'll adopt this child?
Right. Of course, it made the news very quickly, and I don't think they ever published a picture of the baby because I found the news articles about it, but never a picture of it. And the next day, 50 families called the police station and said, we would like to adopt it.
Wow.
Yes.
So there was a children's home that existed at that time in Joplin, what we would call an orphanage, maybe in those terms. Did that child get taken there?
No, it never was, and I thought that was interesting because that was a big deal in Joplin, that home was. But I guess maybe because it was considered for orphans, and it takes like 2 years to start in Missouri law to decide, is this abandoned baby an orphan, because they give parents back then 2 years to come back and claim it, and it could not be adopted for 2 years. And so the foster family took care of it that whole time.
And eventually, though, the child was adopted. We just don't know.
We don't know that either. It was speculated in the news articles that it would be adopted after the 2-year period, and it would be adopted by that foster family.
Well, so you have written that better options today borrowed from history. How far back can we go to find the idea of baby boxes? Because you say it's not really a new idea.
It's not a new idea. I remember seeing a TV show, you remember MASH on TV, and they had a baby cradle, a turning cradle, a foundling wheel. It has a lot of different names. This one was at a convent. And it goes back into medieval times where people had, their little carve out at a church or a monastery or a convent. And people would put the baby in there and then kind of turn the wheel or close the box or just walk away.
So why do you think this grabbed everyone's attention in Joplin at that time in 1945?
Well, I think partly because of all the soldiers coming and going. We had Camp Crowder, we had a USO in Joplin, a USO in Neosho, and I think people wanted a feel-good story. They wanted to say, oh, look, yes, this family wasn't able to take care of this baby, but we've got 50 families willing to take care of it. So I think they needed a feel-good story in 1945.
It's hard to imagine that leaving the bushes, but someone must have known that there was someone there that night.
Well, that's also the mystery, and not to sound like a podcast, but yeah, there were 3 women there. One was a nurse, and also it was a Jewish family, a very, very well-established, high community profile Jewish family. And so did the baby's mother or father or grandparents choose that home because they knew it was a Jewish family? I will never know.
We may never know.
Or because it had a stone wall around the property to protect the baby.
And nobody could see. Well, Marianne Phillips, thank you for giving that glimpse of a little mystery of history in Joplin.
And someday maybe we'll find out.
Maybe. All right. Thanks, Marianne.
Thank you.
An old idea newly implemented. You can support baby boxes with donations at either of the fire departments featured today. That wraps up this edition of Newsmakers. Thanks to all our guests, and thank you for watching.